everybody. Today I'm going to talk about Arklex AI's agent framework. My name is Joe. I'm a professor of computer science at Columbia University. I'm also the founder of Arklex AI. So I've been working on AI for a long time, also been doing a lot of industry collaborations over the many years. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is AI agents. I'm pretty sure you have heard about this thing multiple times, but I just wanted to give a simple identifications of what we're doing. So it's about an AI that can perceive the world and the environment and take that information into reasoning and planning so they can break down bigger tasks into smaller steps and then perform actions such as function or tool calling, even embodied actions like moving from A to B in order to influence the environment. So we call them these AI agents. Before we are purchasing softwares, humans are using softwares to complete tasks. Right now, the AI agents can actually become one of the collaborators of human agents. So they can perform the task automatically or under human supervision. Multiple agents can coordinate with each other and then at the same time taking inputs from human agents to become a team that can supercharge the entire productivity of the organization. Of course, our agents could also be employed by individual human beings as a personal assistant. So the current AI agent ecosystem really comes from the 4 layers. We have the foundation model layer, and then we can have a foundation model layer that is specifically optimized for agents planning. And then we have the agent orchestration framework that actually provides all the toolings, the security layers and efficiency layers to help developers to build better agents. And the last layer, which is the verticals, for example, AI agents for mental health, AI agents for marketing, AI agents for sales, and so on. So our framework, Arklex, really lies in the agentic orchestration framework, but we also have built out agents that serves different functionality just to demonstrate the scalability and robustness of our framework. So let's take a step back in terms of the evolution of these AI agents. We start with a simple automation. Many years ago, we have these kind of rule-based system. If you do this, you do that, right? Many of these kind of examples that we're using right now, like Canva or HubSpot, you basically have a scheduler that have these kind of simple automation enabled. And then we have one step further, what we call AI workflows, that you're actually using large language models to define these kind of steps and connect them together. It's not the best way to define it because if you have multiple of these logics, it can be very overwhelming and hard to maintain over time. Common ones for these AI workflows are like Zendesk. So you have these kind of automations in terms of ticketing and so on. And now we go into this like fully agentic time that the AI doesn't really rely on the workflows. It relies on autonomous reasoning, try to select different tools and complete things. So this is what we call real-time autonomous, but it definitely has some drawback in terms of it has really high costs in terms of selecting and searching which tool to use. And sometimes it could cause errors. One of the sort of like really popular applications are coding agents like a cursor. In reality, what we see, which is most effective in industry application, is really combining the AI workflow and the autonomous AI agent together in order to have a trade-off in terms of control efficiency and flexibility. So this is how we build Arklex on top. So here, if you compare it to the traditional like chatbot AI workflows like Amazon Alexa, Rasa, and so on, Arklex are able to not only have these kind of flows, but also be able to go beyond these flows to be able to search for corner cases. While on the other side, that we have our agentic frameworks like AutoGen, LangChain, Llama Index, and CrewAI. They don't have certain workflows. Sometimes they do, but they're not enough flexibility. So what Arklex is trying to do is strike the balance of intelligence and control. And so we have various different features that were listed out that compares the traditional dialogue system framework and the large language model based agent frameworks. How are we different? So Arklex is really coming down to, we make it open source. We have mixed control, which means that there are multiple possibility of humans could interact with the agent, authorize the agent, and then can have more control. Action graph, which gives you more domain knowledge transfer to help you to become more efficient. We have the natural language understanding unit. So this is not only just doing internal actions, but also able to communicate with third-party customers. Finally, we can actually have different agents, workers, work together to complete more complex tasks. And these different smaller tasks can also be combined together to fulfill bigger need. And then due to what we call deployment backups, we also have human interventions that could make sure that humans are actually be able to transfer into if the agents are not sure what to do. And finally, we think it's the most important factor or features of our framework is the continual learning. So we're not actually a static system. Once deployed, will grow over time in order to become more efficient, more useful over time. So how are we actually making Arklex work? So Arklex, when you start with working with Arklex, you start with is that you wanted to think about what is your efficient workflows. So for example, you're a sales agent. You want to know what are your sales playbooks, which is usually our unstructured information. So there will be different functionalities you need to complete. So you can actually use these unstructured information as the input of Arklex task graph generation module, and it will automatically generate a workflow for you that covers all the unstructured information that you have. So this is very similar to the AI workflow we talked about, but still this AI workflow is automatically generated instead of previously when we build conversational agents, you have to handcraft it. And then again, for control, we also have human adjustable verification process. So we have an interactive graph editor that you can edit the graph to make sure that it's aligned with what you have in terms of domain knowledge. And then we start with this base graph and automatically update it when there is new information. So what would happen is you would first use a user simulator to simulate what are realistic scenarios when people are using your AI agent. And then through these simulations, we'll uncover what are the things that current task graphs are not covering. We will use automatic tool callings, so basically the automatic parts of the planning to solve it. We also always would have a budget. If the system is taking too long, then we hand over to human for security reason. If the system is not quite sure about it can complete the task, we will also transfer it to human. So this way that the human can take over and complete the task. Either the system or be through the automatic exploration or through a human handover, you'll get additional passes about how to solve scenarios we haven't seen before. And these traces can be integrated with your existing task graph. So this is what we call task graph continual learning. Over the times, you start with simulation, and then you deploy the system. And finally, during test time, you do the similar idea of further growing your task graph. So over time, your task graph will be grown into a state that can bring 99% of your customers. Let's show you how we generate the initial task graph and how can we update these task graph over time. For example, we're taking a sales agent for e-commerce as an example. So we would usually have flowcharts to start the conversation. What are the different steps you want to perform? And these unstructured documentations could be fed into our module, and then you would generate something on the right. And then you can edit them to make sure that it faithfully represents your task graph. And if you have existing conversations of real salespeople talking to the user, you can also use that as an input to further refine your graph. Here's an example of how real customer conversation look like. We say, hello, welcome to Avel. I'm here to assist you. How can I help you to get started today? And then we're talking about buying a dress, offering different recommended options. And then, for example, here in the end, we're talking about what kind of promotions you would apply for. So currently, for example, we're in the fall promotion. I say, why set up with just one when you can have two? Get a second dress in any color for 50% off. Switch up your style, match different occasions, or surprise your girlfriend with a perfect at half the price. Feel free to proceed to checkout. So this is sort of like because of the action of calling the promotion API automatically, you'll generate these interesting conversations that actually incorporate all the information that you had through the API callings and the sales playbook. These promotion things change all the time. Do I have to change it manually every time for the task graph? The answer is definitely no. We can pull these promotion plans automatically from your database and then automatically change the dialog flow for you. For example, the old promotion for the fall, as you get second one with a 50% discount, Black Friday promotion is actually get 30% off your cart when you spend over 100. And this natural language instruction of your promotion would automatically sync in to your action graph. So here, whenever a customer is suited for this particular promotion, you should promote them. So we basically automatically updated the graph and then generate replies such, do you know that you can enjoy an extra 30% off when your cart total exceeds $100, only during our Black Friday sale. So this process, what we call like automatic updates, is really coming down to the agent orchestration framework. Basically takes over a lot of these kind of manual tasks for you and make sure every information is updated, that is pulled together. For example, our Arklex framework is going to release our Shopify agent instances that already integrated with all the Shopify APIs. So a developer who is helping e-commerce manage these sales and customer service agent could simply use our open source and spin it off with some specification of your own sales plan. So e-commerce is just one particular thing. And then if we just look at the sales agent skill, different functionalities e-commerce salespeople, for example, raising customers' awareness through marketing, social media, and engagement, increase people's consideration by having better product, website management, and customer interaction. Helping the customers to make decisions easier, for example, do sales and promotion. Finally, how do you order management and so on. And after that, how to do interactions and promotion, retentions, and so on. So for all these kind of agents, you are looking at different functionalities that are covering different stages. And these kind of different functionality, as a product manager, you can look into them and see what are the certain parts you can automate. For example, respond to queries through different multiple chats. Could be simply implemented through using AI agents automation flow. So let's give you a concrete example that we interact with. RichTech is selling robots online. So their products, in a little bit of context, is a very complex, very hard to train non-technical sales agents to explain things. So this poor explanation could lead to customer loss. People are not 24/7 around at the phone calls or at the websites. So people use different platforms. So very likely during the offline hours, there is lead loss happening. Because they sell robots for various different places. How to have a customer and sales agents that understand multiple languages 24/7 ready is definitely difficult. A lot of times, one individual sales member may not have the complete view of what the customer wants, what the customer insights. This can also have bad customer experience and lead to customer loss. So what we implemented is a 360 customer-facing agent for RichTech, and we have a really good outcomes of getting 35% more leads captured, lead to 20% of extra revenue. So here is a couple of things that we see that people find it's really surprising and they liked it. For example, they can answer very complex questions. Bartender, how much space does it need? They can also get a quote and they understand if these kind of very contextual things like trail show event Las Vegas. Go around and share a budget, email address to move them to the next stage of the pipeline. The agent could also do multi-touch to reduce lead losses. It can send emails. It can also schedule a demo for you through emails. It can send you SMS messages and so on. And also because the agent is able to integrate with CRMs. So when a person comes in, he knows this person and he knows what are the previous purchase. So that it's easy for it to upsell and maintain customer relationship. So sales agent is one of the articles that Arklex has been implementing with all these nice templates. So you can actually just spin it off with plug into your own data sources. You'll get a pretty nice sales agent. Our toolkit is skill agnostic. You can use enterprise version, building a consumer AI agent. Of course, We're building our solutions that are specifically targeting for challenges like require robust, repeatable outcome, require explainable process, and helps with data security, providing red teamings and various things. Thanks for everybody for coming. Today we introduce our new open source toolkits for agent orchestration. If you are an engineer, a developer, or a product manager within corporations that are interested in trying out our tools, please don't hesitate to contact me or take a look at our open source at Arklex AI. Thank you.